Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Office Hours. I'm your host, Stuart Newsom, and I'm thrilled to have all of you joining us today. Now, our topic is one that impacts nearly every facet of healthcare operations, and that is the efficiency or lack thereof of document capture and referral management and other crucial processes. So today I'm joined by a true expert in this area, Charulata Nevatia. Charo, she's our Director of Product Automation here at Infinix Healthcare, where she really leads an initiative or a team that integrates cutting edge technology to tackle the persistent inefficiencies in healthcare. She has extensive experience in automation and process optimization and has been instrumental in developing solutions that address one of healthcare's long-standing pain points, and that is the reliance on manual, fax-based workflows. So thank you for being with us, Charo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Stuart. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to the session.
Awesome, awesome. Glad I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about all this. Because particularly in this session, we're really going to dive deep into the ongoing impact of outdated document capture methods. And when I say outdated, I mean really outdated. So specifically, again, that reliance on fax machines and manual data entry in healthcare workflows. It may surprise some to hear, it may not surprise many of you, that despite incredible advances in technology, fax machines still play a major role in healthcare. So though the modern faxes may now arrive as PDFs rather than paper, even though some still arrive as paper, we're not far removed from the days when practices shared their fax line with their phone line. I can remember that. I'm sure, I don't know if Charo, if you remember that, but that was nearly 30 years ago. And when you stop and think, what advancements have we had since then? We've had the arrival of smartphones in the 2000s, wireless internet everywhere, GPS navigation on our phones, voice activated smart assistants like Siri and Alexa, and even the rise of AI powered tools in everyday life. We even talk about AI in healthcare. It's everywhere you look. It's AI, automation, and machine learning. Now, communication has evolved drastically with emails, video calls, instant messaging, and even cloud-based collaboration, allowing people to connect in ways once unimaginable. Yet in healthcare, faxes remain the norm. Just got to understand why is that. All right, so we're going to dive deep a little more deeper in that. This also causes inefficiencies and bottlenecks that impact referral management, authorizations, as well as claim processing. So today, Charles will walk us through how AI-powered automation, including tools like OCR, which for those who don't know what that means, that's optical character recognition, as well as LLMs. If you've ever heard of anyone coin that phrase, it's large language models, is finally addressing this challenge. So these advancements can help healthcare teams move beyond facts, streamline document capture processes, reduce errors, and also improve data integrity. And everybody knows how big I am on data integrity. So we want this to be very interactive. So feel free to submit any questions you may have. Again, as always, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So we'll address those questions that you submit at the end and answer them to the best of our ability and as accurately as possible. So let's get started, Charu. Why do you think fax machines and manual processes are still so prevalent in referral management, especially when you consider the advancements in digital health technologies today?
Right. So I've been doing my research, and as I speak to some of our healthcare providers that we've partnered with, whom we've been serving, what I've learned over a period of time that first, fax is still HIPAA compliant. People feel that sending PHI data over fax is safer than sending it over emails, which is prone to excess or misuse. So that was like the first thing that popped out, that fax is HIPAA compliant. I'm like, all right. Second, the whole adoption to technology, right? Everybody has a different EMR, or the doctors or the providers who are referring to, say, an imaging house probably don't have those connections or similar systems. And somehow fax is something which is not highly technical. We've been using it for years together, and it's just easy to use, right? So change
Mhm.
has always been tough. And especially when it comes to technology adoption, it can become expensive. It can become pretty heavy on getting the connections. And it's not that you are just tying up with one provider. Maybe there are multiple imaging stations that you reach out to, or there are multiple providers that speak to each other. So fax seems to be the most common and easier way to communicate at this point of time too. So I think it's the ease and averseness to change, and technology being a little not something that providers want to really get to, right? They want to take care of their patients. Technology is not what they really want to get to. So those are a couple of things that I learned, which the stark number that I saw in one of the conference report was 70% usage of fax is still seen in US healthcare. And that was a
Wow.
huge number, and it's
Yes.
not changing very soon. So yes, a couple
Yeah.
of pretty interesting points that I came to know while I was looking at this.
Yeah. Interesting with the HIPAA. I totally get that, because it's sometimes, the old-fashioned ways are the best ways, and I understand that. And then change management. It really shouldn't come to any surprise when you consider that a lot of PM systems out there, EHRs, I always like to joke about it, but it's almost like the 90s have called and they want their user interface back, right? Because they're
Yes,
still kind of living in,
used to it.
about 20, 30 years ago. So it's really no surprise that even in
Yeah,
technology with the faxes, and to your point, it is easier to use. And then people don't like change. I think everyone's had
yeah.
bad experiences with change. Um, and why do we want to change when what we're doing is working? So with that, kind of a good segue, can you explain some of the
Mhm.
common delays and errors that arise specifically from those fax-based referral management workflows, specifically their
Sure.
impact on patient care? Because even though everything you just outlined is the reason why there hasn't been change, there's still problems, right?
Exactly. And just imagine there's a really busy hospital, and there are faxes coming in. In my head, I'm imagining a fax machine just shooting out a lot of papers. It's all over the place. And it's just a busy day. And uh, the people who are trying to serve the patient is also trying to figure out if they've got the fax, can they find it, is the patient in, and just imagine the fax is of a bad quality, because even though if it is an e-fax that is coming through, it's still probably a fax which they took an image and sent out, or it was an e-fax sent out which was pretty gray, not handwritten, right? That's another way that people send out details that, can you get an MRI done because of this particular reason, and this is a stat case. But
Mhm.
what if nobody is looking at it? So bad fax documents cause bad data entry because there is a human who's looking at it, trying to type in, figure it out. Of course, there are these patients trying to line up and figure out where uh, their appointments are or when can they be scheduled. So one of the biggest pain of fax today that I could understand from my research and talking to various providers was that there were delays. Patients were not getting care on time. They There were handwritten pieces where the data entry went wrong because the spelling was wrong, the date of birth went wrong, the ICD codes that were sent were not understood, and the manual data entry, the conversion of handwritten to digital information so that it could go into an EMR for appointments. Those are the areas where you see a lot of delays, errors, and of course, it's eventually provider not making money and patients not getting the care, both. So
Right.
a couple of challenges with the faxes, which they realize it's a challenge, but I think there hasn't been a technology that could solve it for them till now.
Right, right. And so with that, how do technologies like OCR and LLMs that I mentioned earlier, how
Mhm.
would that transform this referral management process? Could you share some specific examples for that?
Sure. So OCR has been around for a while. It's nothing new. What does optical character recognition do? It scans a particular template. That particular scan has been trained, or there has been enough uh, logic put into it that this is a particular form. Exactly on the left top corner, you will find the name. The right uh, bottom, you would find a signature. Somewhere in the middle, exactly at this position, you would find the ICD code and the CPT code, right? But OCR always expected you to tell it that this is the exact format of the form and this is exactly where you will find it. If instead of name, there was a date of birth which was printed there, it will just tell you that it's name and it would be a date format. So that's where OCR limitation came in, because every provider had a different prescription pad, or every hospital was sending out different forms, which could not be trained, right? Because I don't know where I would get a form from. How do I
Right.
even use this technology? It's just too much to get to unless you have specific 3 or 4 prescription pads that are sending you data. Maybe you can train on it. So OCR had its limitation because it needed a lot of logic and development and templatization, which challenged the adoption of converting these faxes into a digital format without somebody manually doing it. Hence, the
Mhm.
adoption did not happen as easily, at least in the referral management or the US healthcare area. Now, how did LLM change it, right? In the last 2 years, it's almost been 2 years since LLMs have become easily available. It's not that AI was not there. It's just that the cost, the usage has become much easier. And the good part about LLM is it has a context. It doesn't need the exact format. It can look at multiple documents, as long as we tell it that this is what you have to look for to say this is a referral request or this is a prescription. And LLMs have the capability of building a context. And then according to the context, now you can tell it, okay, if you think this is an order form that you have received, can you look for the first name, last name, date of birth, so on and so forth. And LLMs are way better in recognizing the context and then extracting data out of it. So that's what makes LLM way more powerful. Of course, it has its limitations. So we know how to handle it. But yes, over the OCR is still good, but it has its limitation. But added advantage of LLM makes the whole combination very powerful today.
Awesome, awesome. So, and then also, I would imagine you would mix in, and maybe we're going to get into this a little later. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but also the RPAs for the automation of entering that information. Because one of the things you had mentioned was someone has to actually take that fax and then manually enter that into the EHR, even look them up and see if they're even an established patient. And that's given that they've actually seen the form, where the fax
Yeah.
could just be laying there for a certain period of time. Not everyone's watching the fax machine 24/7 and, oh, there's a fax, I got to go put
Yeah.
it in right now. They may be, hours that pass by before they notice a stack of faxes. Now they got to go enter all these in sequentially. So I'm sure RPA would play a big part of this as well.
Yes, the solution that we are looking at is something which, one, it will give preference to the oldest facts that has come in. It would be able to make sense of these documents, which are unstructured documents in the technical format. But in layman term, every document looks different from one another, but there are a couple of nuances out of which the LLM can build the context. And then it starts extracting data, and depending on the validation, it should be able to connect to one of your EMRs through various endpoints that we have. It could be an HL7, an API, which are two usually used integrations, which are technical integrations, but say you don't have it. We also have RPAs, which are bots that we can build custom to integrate the two systems, where we would be able to extract the data, make sense of it, validate it. And then if you have an EMR or an EHR system that you want this data to be entered, a patient to be created before the order is created. Check if the order already exists. The RPA bots can have the intelligence to validate certain values before it makes a change. And of course, if there's an exception, there can be an exception flow where we could let the human in the loop take care of it.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So going back to the fear of change that people have and why they've kind of stuck with faxes, what are the biggest obstacles healthcare organizations face when considering automation for referral management or any document capture? How can they overcome these to make it a smooth transition?
Uh, what we were just talking about, right? That, okay, there are enough applications out there that are using LLM or OCR technologies to extract data. The biggest challenge that exists today is one, the domain knowledge, where, oh, this is an order form, this is a prior auth form, this is uh, some health details that were requested, or this is a film request that has been sent. Uh, the non-RCM space organizations that just have LLM as an offering would just get you the data extracted. But I don't think they go deeper into the domain and they understand the pain point. That's where Infinix is different. We do understand the space. We've been in the space for the longest time. Uh, we know where the challenges are because we ourselves have teams that take care of converting these faxes into EMR records. So how we offer the solution is by ability to extract, ability to understand. If the machine is not able to convert it because of whatever challenges or the data is not complete, it can also alert that there needs a human intervention that should correct the data, complete the data before it is sent to the EMR. And then because of our automation platform, we have ability to integrate through various integrations like HL7 APIs, or we can have a bot build. So the end-to-end solution is what we offer, which probably right now not many are able to expose or have the expertise in. And that is where the healthcare industry today is struggling to adopt or change from, okay, I bring in somebody to extract data, but now what do I do with this data?
Mhm.
Who will enter it into the system? Who will make sure that I don't need another 7 people looking at it, right? I just want somebody to take care of it. So we ensure that we take care of the end to end. And that is where the change becomes a little less. There is obviously there's a new format, new process. You will have to understand, but the friction is pretty less, and that's what we care about.
Yeah, just kind of make it an easy lift for them, if you will.
Exactly.
Then I would imagine the end result is going to be really some measurables, some return on investment, if you will, and not just investment in money, but also their resources or their emotions to this change. All right. So I think
Mhm.
when you talk about ROI, I always like to include those intangibles that's not always tied to revenue. But in terms of referral management, what are those measurable benefits, such as time saved or reduction in processing errors that healthcare providers have seen after implementing automated document capture?
So, well, one of the good parts about LLM now is one, it is able to extract data that we train it to. We have a continuous feedback learning out of it if something is not being extracted. Uh, we recently realized if there is cursive handwriting, which is there in one of the prescriptions, the LLM kind of struggles and requires a human in the loop. But the efficiencies that I have seen compared to OCR, I think the accuracy rate for a digital document to be converted has gone up to 90 to 95%,
Wow.
where we are able to extract most of the information. The only reason we had some challenges was because of the fax number, because a particular prescription has like 3 or 4 fax numbers. And LLM still struggles to extract the right fax number out of the document. But if we could give it more context, I'm sure it will be able to extract the fax number too. But that is one area where I saw that we realized the 5% chances of error was still there from the fax number perspective. Uh, so yes, we are able to process a lot of these documents without anybody touching it. If it is a good document, digital, 95% extraction uh, success. And then with our integrations, we are able to create the order, make sure, and the system that I worked with, the moment the order was created, the patient would get a call for schedule and
Oh,
they
wow.
could be scheduled for an appointment. It was the whole experience is so different than imagine a fax coming in and the patient is still waiting to be scheduled for the next day or two because there was a pile and his order was lost somewhere else. So that's the benefit that you're able to schedule faster. If, of course, there are exceptions, there is somebody else or a human in the loop who would take care of it. But most of the happy path, which is 60 to 70% of the faxes I've seen, can just go through the pipe and the patient would have a lovely experience at the end of it because it would be pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, revenue
And that's,
increases because of that, denials go down because of that. Uh,
and then patient
Definitely.
satisfaction. I mean, that's what it's all about too, is care
Exactly.
for the patient
Ex-
at the end of the day.
Right.
So I know we all
Yeah.
want that. So okay,
Yes.
I'm a provider or I'm a practice administrator. I'm ready to get started. What would you
Mhm.
recommend as the first step for someone looking to move from fax-based referral workflows to automated document capture systems?
Three steps really. One is what is your capability of being able to integrate your fax in the faxes that are coming in, the system needs to ingest it. So that's the step one. How would you integrate with our system? Is there, in a technical term again, is there a folder we should be picking it up from? Is there a policy that you want the oldest first? Or is there a special folder where all our stat cases come to this number while the routine cases come to this number? So have some prioritization on what or how you would want your faxes to be processed. Second would be what is your split between the type of faxes, right? Some of the providers I've worked with, they have like 8 or 10 kind of faxes, which are order, non-order. Of course, you get junk and marketing material. So figure out what is your percentage, what are your top three things you would want to solve to see the quick ROI before you expand to it. So having a sense of what your overall volume, what is the split, so that we could integrate your system and process those to get a fastest ROI. And finally, how would you want these outputs of the LLM or our document capture application to go back into your system? Are you looking at just send us the data, we will upload it, or no, we would like you to create these orders and, so that the downward process starts. So I think the start, how do you get it? How or what is it that you want to solve for? And finally, where do you want this data? As long as you are able to think of that, you have a game plan. And then we can assist you on how do you solve for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
that's all the questions I have. We're actually going to turn it over to the Q&A for the audience and see if there's any questions that have come in. We do have one that I see here. Actually, there's two. I think we can get to both of them. How does automated document capture handle handwritten or low quality fax referrals? I guess he's referring to maybe if it's handwritten, it's maybe not be legible. So maybe the quality
Mhm.
of the information that's there. Is there still a need for manual checks in these cases?
So just because they're handwritten, there is no need for manual checks. Handwritten is pretty accurately being recognized by LLMs now. That's another positive about LLM, which OCR would struggle with. However, we do strongly believe that you should always have some amount of audit checks that should happen regularly. And I recommend that for all automations. It's not just this one, where one, of course, if we've not found all the data, right, you tell me that your system needs phone number because we have an auto call to the patient so that they can be scheduled. So if the complete information is not received, you will need human in the loop. it will go into a review or reach out to the patient queue, whatever you want to call it, so that the patient is contacted, all the information is received. Now, if the quality of the document is bad, we do have pre-processing in our system where we try to make the document more legible before we process it for data extraction. Now, if it is still a challenge and we are finding that the document is extremely bad quality, or we've got a huge amount of data which is not making sense, or our confidence on the document is low, we will send it out for human review, because we obviously don't want to extract data which is just going to not make sense to you when the order is created. So yes, we do have checks and balances. We recommend that, of course, you do your audits regularly on the data that the system creates, but we also have a system which gives you all the exceptions which should be reviewed or which needs human intervention. At this point of time, my current data set tells me that at least 20% of these kind of documents do come in, which are of bad quality or some key information missing and needs human intervention. But 65 to 70% order documents which are coming in today, I have seen them get processed pretty easily. And most of the time data is there because that's a regular process. It's normally those handwritten where uh, the phone number was not sent or it was not available, and uh, it went into a human loop. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes, I think so as well. And I think what's amazing is it's actually you're teaching to recognize, what's junk facts, so to speak, like we like to call junk
Yes.
email, automatically,
Yeah.
disregards it, but also the different types of documents that you're looking for. I know you touched on that earlier, but to me that's very impressive that it's it understands that and takes it to that deeper level. Um, so this next question, I think you've already answered this question, but it may be a deeper question regarding integration options, and it's for healthcare organizations that still
Mhm.
rely heavily on fax. What are the integration options for automation tools like OCR LLMs with existing EMR systems?
So you're right. I think as we were talking earlier, right? HL7 APIs, if there are APIs exposed by their EMR, we could always consume those. Uh, if you want the data to be sent in a particular format, like a CSV Excel in a folder where, okay, these are the faxes and this is a complete output, we can do that. And then that Excel can be consumed if there is no EMR in the middle. So we are open to HL7 APIs, SFTP folders, as well as RPA bots. We do make custom RPA bots as per the requirement that the customer may have. We have already built bots on next-gen ECW, which help us integrate the data back into the system. So there are multiple integration options, and we've been doing it for a while now. So we know that we can successfully integrate those.
Nice. It just for those who've probably been faxing for all these years, it just sounds too good to be true. It's almost like you mean you're telling me there's a better way, and I think you've clearly outlined that there is a better way. So thank you, Charo, for sharing, such invaluable insights today. It's clear that there's a lot of potential here for healthcare organizations. Really to make that positive shift away from manual document capture. I'm sure this can be applied. We talked about faxes and referral management today, but I'm sure there's other applications. The sky could be the limit. So thank you very much for being with us again today. And I want to thank the audience as well for tuning in and having those engaging questions. Remember, if you'd like to learn more information about automation in healthcare, feel free to reach out to us at Infinix. We'll be happy to answer your questions further. And we're happy to connect and explore how our solutions can make a difference for your team. So Charo, again, thank you. Thank you so much. You're going to be on here again. So it's always a
Looking
pleasure to
forward.
have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Stuart. Thank you so much for having me here. Always a fun conversation.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's a wrap for today's office hours. Until next time, everyone take care and stay tuned for next week's. It'll be out soon.